So Social Security is quietly rolling out a redesign of your Social Security statement. You know, the traditional statement that maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't, because they used to mail it out to everybody, then they stopped, then they restarted. The reality is that if you're over 60, you're going to get it in the mail unless you've set up an online account. And then once you set up the online account, just like everything in today's world, you no longer get it mailed. You now have to remember your login and get it online. The reality is, though, that they are quietly rolling out this redesign. Started in the 1st of May, and sort of like a soft launch, if you will, almost like a restaurant, right? The biggest change is that it is no longer 4 pages. It's actually only 2 pages. So that's a pretty big change when you reduce down the information that you were getting by 50%. There's also a lot more changes on it as well. So in this segment of the program, we're going to spend some time going over what those changes are so you can perhaps become more familiar with it, so that when you look at your Social Security statement, it won't be a surprise to you, because it's going to look quite different. Well, it's half the size that it used to be than what you used to get. So welcome back to the program Dollars and Cents, where we help you make sense out of all of life's decisions involving your dollars. We're Central Florida's longest running radio program. Also happen to be one of the top 25 financial planning podcasts on the World Wide Web. So make sure you check us out on your favorite podcast channel of choice. Just make sure you search Dollars and Cents with Joel Garris or simply Nelson Financial Planning. Either one of them gets you to where our podcast channel is on your preferred media network. You can also go to our website, nelsonfinancialplanning.com. Upper right-hand corner, there's a bunch of icons. Click on the one that looks most familiar to you, and you'll get directly connected. Anyway, my name is Joel Garris, certified financial planner, certified financial fiduciary at Nelson Financial Planning. So besides less pages, and when you go from 4 pages down to 2, that's quite a bit of a change in terms of the length. The folks at Social Security redesigned a variety of other aspects of that traditional Social Security statement. And we've got a sample. We're going to hold that up for our YouTube audience, and we'll post this on the various social media channels during the course of this week so that you can also see what it looks like. The biggest change is that the prior statement, it had a number in the upper right-hand corner. And what folks had to understand, that number in the upper right-hand corner was the amount that you were going to get at your full retirement age. Well, the full retirement age has been transitioning up to age 67. So many people, between the confusion over, well, when exactly is my full retirement age, and kind of looking quickly at a number on the page, didn't really appreciate exactly what that number meant and in exactly what age you could get that number. For that, with the old statement, you had to turn the page and go to page 2 and then kind of read through sort of some of the different information and some of the language and the numbers that were associated with that. So what they did on this one is they wound up creating a little bar chart. And the bar chart, rather than just having 3 ages that were 62, 67, and 70, which is what was on the old statement, assuming your full retirement age was 67, they now break it down based upon specific ages, every age, if you will, from age 62 to age 70, so 62, 63, 64, every individual age. And on that bar chart, it has the amount of Social Security that you're going to get at those particular ages. So that's good, because that gives you a lot more specific information. So despite the fact that they cut it down in half, the reality is that they're presenting the information in such a way that it gives you a little bit more specificity and a little bit better information relating to the age at which you take Social Security. What's interesting about this, and obviously when you do this, and I'm sure there's a lot of folks that were involved in the design and the presentation of the material, the reality is that you've got a definite sort of suggestion, or I guess I don't want to say conclusion, but you can kind of conclude it. The message, or the subliminal message on all of this, as you look at this, bar chart, is that if you wait, you will get more, and I guess that makes sense. The interesting part, and this may be my just baseline paranoidness of government stuff, the suggestion that when you look at this is to wait so you can get more money. Well, that's exactly what they would want you to do, right? I mean, because the program is not exactly in great financial shape, so the longer you wait, then they can put it off, and then, in theory, pay you less, because if you wait longer to take Social Security and you have the same life expectancy, that means that they aren't going to have to pay you out as many years. So, but anyway, I digress. That may or may not be the subliminal message. I'm sure there's something to that, but it certainly does present the information in a much better way that allows you to see exactly what you're going to get if, say, you decide to retire at 64 and start to collect Social Security, or if you decide to retire at 65 and start to collect Social Security, versus previously where you kind of had to do some math and sort of figure it out. That was a little bit tricky. So this clearly is an improvement. Another interesting part of the redesign is the quantification of how much taxes, and that's, again, if we go to our YouTube audience, that's below the bar graph. So below the bar graph, it talks about the total amount of taxes paid under Social Security and also Medicare. And in this particular example that we were able to find out there, actually one of our associates, Rob Field, found it for us. It says that Social Security taxes paid $236,941. This particular example had a relatively high income earner. Employer paid $44,727. So the total amount of the taxes paid was $281,668. So what's interesting is it kind of gives you that. Now, remember, it still gives you your earnings summary on page 2. That's what's on page 2. The traditional listing that they had of every year and your income, and one of the things that you're supposed to do, which kind of everybody forgets to do, but you really should, is that you look at the amount of money that you made in each particular year, and it should match up with the amount of money that you actually got. But it's on you to sort of verify the accuracy of that information. So that's all is still very much on page 2, where it lists the year that the work year, 1998, 99, 2000, stuff like that, and the earnings that were that you paid Social Security tax on. So all of that still very much still on there, and certainly you want to check the record. But now with the redesign, they've got the total amount of taxes that you paid. And so in this particular case, what's interesting is that this individual paid a total of $281,668 in Social Security taxes over the course of their working career. At age 67, again, based upon the statement here, they would expect to get a Social Security benefit of $3,028. Again, this particular example, sort of a higher earner, sort of curious how these numbers might play out for kind of a more normal wage earner, but this was the example that we were able to kind of find. So if you run the math, at age 67, if you're going to get $3,028, you paid in $281,000, the recoup is less than 8 years. So within an 8-year period of time after age 67, you would get back all of the money that you put into Social Security. Now, that's the kind of analysis that you hear people talk about and say, oh, you're going to get back out a tremendous amount versus what you put back in. Partially true if you just kind of look at these numbers, but what's the key piece of information that we're not really seeing in this analysis? Well, the key piece of information, go to the earnings statement. Earnings statement is a history going back, in this particular individual's case, 30 years. So it's money that you paid in over 30 years. Let's not forget that when you pay money in 30 years ago, that's worth a heck of a lot more than what it is today. So be careful about kind of drawing these conclusions on, oh, I paid this much in Social Security. That's kind of what they want you to do on this redesign. Oh, you paid this much. We're going to give it all back to you in less than 8 years. Except you gave it to them over a 30-year period of time. The reality is that's worth a whole lot more than what you're ever going to get back. But hey, they redesigned it to make the suggestion. But hey, that's just me. I might be a little bit jaded in terms of my perspective on the government. We'll take a break and return after these messages here on Dollars and Cents with your host, Joel Garris of Nelson Financial.